Hello. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about fictional game design, mostly for Sword Art Online, but also touching a few other properties and generalities. In short, in a story, a game is not just a game. Even if it's not life or death like an SAO, a fictional game serves two or more masters. The first and simplest is that the creator usually wants to create a game that would be fun for people to play, something that they would want to play. Um, However, that's not the only purpose. The second game within a game is that it's a vehicle for the narrative, or more blatantly, a power system. You can't tell certain stories in certain types of games, or at least would struggle to do so. So, in the same way that it'd be hard to write Naruto with One Piece's power system, or vice versa, it would be hard to write a basketball anime to be about chess instead. This is also why sports anime frequently end up doing aura farming secret move stuff or introducing very over specialized characters to an extent that you wouldn't see in real life usually. The story they want to tell in a given match is no longer matching the game they're using, so they start adding anime logic to contain their story. A fictional game lets you build your options and restrictions from the ground up, but if you are consistent, you have the same issues. Lastly, and optionally, there's also a bit of an it factor, where there may be a reason for the game to be different from ideal game design, either for in universe reasons or because the author has a message or vibe to convey. You could also call this an overlap of the first 2 points. For example, part of the reason to design a functional game people want to play, for point 1, is that it's good for the power fantasy, which is under part 2. But I think it's sometimes useful to break it into its own section. You can also find a lot of minor examples that are very clear. For instance, the game world for Otome Mob, new season coming out by the way, is based on being full of pay to win BS so the MC can hijack it. Ditto for Bofuri's game being jank to make her OP. Shangri-La Frontier has the MC playing games that are deliberately bad. Sword Art Online has a major one as well, and I'll get to that shortly. First, though, I want to run through a game that is somewhat simpler due to playing a smaller role in the story it's a part of, and thus serves as an example of how these paradigms can be at odds with each other. Let's look at Quidditch, a game that is widely memed on the internet for being a bad game, and somewhat for good reason. The core of the game is actually reasonably competent, with the chasers, beaters, and keepers outlining a game that's essentially fantastical soccer. Also similarities to the likes of basketball or Ultimate Frisbee or many other games. Why then did Rowling add the snitch and its huge game warping point swing? And that is because it makes Harry Potter the main character of the game. The early books, especially the first, which are notably the ones that feature the most Quidditch, are a power fantasy about Harry joining this secret world and finally finding the place he's always belonged. And being naturally good at a game lots of people care about delivers that in spades. So that's our second point. It serves a narrative purpose to make Harry Potter the main character of the game, but making someone the main character of the game who's not also the main character of the book does not work well for a real world game. It also adds to the whimsical nature of the setting, again, especially in the early books. Even without making Harry Potter the Seeker, the game ending on capturing a snitch, instead of having a play clock out or set point goal, makes the magical world deliberately different and a bit nonsense compared to the real world, in the same way that the coinage is denominated in prime number intervals. Those decisions, though, end up making Quidditch not work very well as a real game. Not an insurmountable challenge, though, as the Muggle Quidditch rules keep the snitch and untimed games by reducing the point value and having the snitch trigger an overtime catch-up period instead of simply ending the game. I could go on, but I want to get back to SAO. SAO largely avoids Rowling's error with the snitch. There are few to no major conflicts between SAO as a game and SAO as a power system. To make a world where Kirito can be a hero, can make his way solo, the game is designed for small parties, with the Switch playstyle further closing the gap between team and solo play. The Dark Soulsy combat, with chip damage from blocking and only taking a few clean hits to win a fight, make for combat that can be suitably dramatic for the story. What few issues remain fall under the third category, which in SAO's case is that it is designed in universe as the death game it is to become. Kaiba knew all along what he was planning to do, and designed the game to fit that and not just the fictional normal game. Once again, those decisions usually interact with good, or at least acceptable, normal game design, but also make the game more playable on uber hardcore. For instance, the lack of magic or most ranged weapons make combat much more fair, as losing an unfair matchup with your life on the line is not a great experience, making you less reliant on teammates due to the game being somewhat soloable and relying on small teams in general, similarly helps people survive. Remember, and this will be a future video, Kaiba's goal was for people to live in his world, not to get as many kills as possible. For another example, the 10k player count. While certain speed watchers claim that this is indicative of low sales and that the game was bad, SAO's launch is more of a limited pre-release. 10k was the total number of copies available, and it sold out almost immediately, with people camping in line to get their copy. This choice works on all three levels. Given that this was the first large-scale VR game, a limited launch makes sense to ensure servers can handle it. Good in-universe game design choice. Smaller player counts also allow in-game fame or infamy, and more personal relationships in general. It's more realistic to be the best out of 10k than out of 1 million. And for Kaiba's goal of people living in his virtual world, the commitment needed to get a copy acts as somewhat of a filter. Trapping casual players are more likely to die or simply refuse to risk it and just camp out in the starting city, which some players do anyway, but those are hardly living within his world, which is what his true goal is. It's also why there was supposed to be a minimum age, though several children lied about their ages to play. It also goes deeper, as even second order effects of this decision also build into multiple directives. The world of SAO has persistent world state, competing for spawns and other resources. A small player base makes this more reasonable without needing instances or multiple worlds, and instancing would create awkward narrative issues. An ambush would rely on the odds of your target being in the same instance, for example, and is somewhat alien to the real world, hurting Kaiba's desire for immersion. Kaiba's final patch to turn SAO the game into SAO the death game does have a few choices that deliberately don't fit though. For instance, bosses not respawning is similar to the instancing feature. Having named mobs not respawn helps immersion for the players trapped within and provides them a sense of progression to make sure they don't give up. I will say that it doesn't make sense for the post-ALO Aincrad to keep it though. It would make more sense for those bosses to respawn and just have first kill honors rather than only kill honors. Similarly, we have the unique skills like dual blades or Kaiba's own unique skill. Again, these are not good from a purely game design perspective, but narratively, having unique skills for both the hero and villain are good, and for Kaiba, who is actively trying to create heroes to finally defeat him, the same. I haven't quite nailed down all of my thoughts on this narrative, but I am confident that the unique skills are an artifact of Death Game SAO, not normal SAO. This is also why Dual Blade is not present in Alfheim's Resurrected SAO. And that's what I'm trying to get people to do in general with any kind of fictional game analysis. Anytime you see a decision that doesn't match what you think is good game design, I'd ask you that you give the creator some grace and try to figure out why that decision was made before first chalking it up to bad game design. For being a bad game is written, I don't think Quidditch is poorly written. It manages to be iconic, emblematic of the whimsy of the wizarding world, let's try to say that 5 times fast, and fulfills its narrative purpose of giving Harry Potter something to be good at. In a similar fashion, on top of most of the criticism of SAO as a game being simply wrong, what flaws there are quite defensible from a writing perspective. It's also worth noting that disagreeing with a game design decision doesn't make it bad. I've also said in other videos, but I'll say it again here, several SAO is a bad game takes are based on ignorance of the critic, claiming that its decision made in SAO is unprecedented and therefore wrong, when it's usually only unprecedented because the person writing this criticism is unfamiliar with enough MMOs, especially older ones. In other words, SAO is not bad because it is not World of Warcraft. Plenty of its mechanical choices match other MMOs, especially contemporaries of when it was first written. In short, and in general, try to figure out why a design choice was made for a fictional game before chalking it up to bad writing. There's often a good reason, even if it truly is bad game design, and it frequently isn't even bad, just different from what you expect. Thank you for listening to my rambling. I wanted to get this video out because it serves as a framework for a lot of things I talk about for SAO and other games, and this serves as a framework for future videos. On that note, if there's any specific bad faith criticisms of SAO that you'd like me to cover, especially with regards to gameplay, let me know.